Hello, rock and rollers. Alabama! Ha ha ha! Welcome to the ElectroJet Rock Show. I'm Jett Electro. We're going to be doing show number 11 on the greatest frontman in rock and roll history, the greatest frontman. So, and with me, coming to you from Los Angeles, my esteemed co-host, I have with us Professor Electro.
Hey, rock and rollers. Welcome to show number 11, and we're going to turn it up to 11.
All right. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, so the greatest rock and roll frontmen of all time, mainly 70s and 80s. That's kind of what this show is about. We're going to probably get a little outside that in future episodes, but that's what we're going to go with tonight. So, should I do the first one, Professor?
Yeah, go ahead. You take the first one this time. Remember, these are not the greatest necessarily singers or vocalists. We're looking for the best frontmen or front women, whichever they are the best. The ones that got that stage presence, that X factor. So go ahead and take it away, Jett.
Yeah, we are factoring in singing ability, however. It does weigh into part of the equation on some of these.
Yes.
My first one is going to be Mick Jagger of the Rolling Stones. Yeah, I've always been a Mick Jagger fan, especially around like 72. That's when he was at his iconic best. He's actually a really great singer, little limited on the range, but frontman extraordinaire. Does a lot of training before tours and stuff like that, runs around a lot, really engages the audience, has the signature moves. Also a great singer. Sometimes live he gets a little gassed, but especially back in the old days, he could do it all. So, my choice number one, Mick Jagger.
All right, great choice. And ding, 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 ding. I got to go also with Mick Jagger as my first choice. Yeah, he's just got great moves. He's got, kind of maybe unusual or even odd look to him, but it doesn't matter. He just overcomes that. And, there's a song now, Moves Like Jagger. He's even today, he's an iconic rock star. Iconic frontman. He's also got that kind of, unique sense of humor, and he's got great instincts, great instincts on what the crowd wants and great instincts on where to move, how to get the crowd into it and engaging the crowd. So yeah, Mick Jagger, can't leave him off the list as one of the great frontmen of all time, especially 70s and 80s.
Absolutely, yeah. He really projects to the back of the stadium, too, all the way to the top with his over-the-top stage presence.
Yeah, absolutely, and, you got to look at the body of work, too, and how long he's been doing it. Still at it, and, you look at him, and he's, like, in his 80s, and he's timeless. Still got it, so, yeah, got to go with Mick.
Yeah, Mick Jagger. I love Mick Jagger's work with the Rolling Stones. Okay, for number two, you might not really consider him a frontman per se, but I defy you to look at some of the old footage. I got to go with Steven Tyler from Aerosmith. He's on fire in the 72 Texas Jam, the Houston gig, which I mentioned before, Houston 1977. He is just crushing it, on fire. Has a pretty unique stage presence, does some cool stuff, does some cool signature things, like jumping up in the air, waving the mic stand around with the scarves on it, playing the drums with Joey Kramer on the finale of Combination. Yeah, I got to give it up for Steven Tyler, one of the greatest rock and roll frontmen of all time.
Yeah, I actually have him on my second tier here. It's this one. I had a lot of trouble choosing five top frontmen. I was a little less challenging with great singers, technical vocalists. This is tough because there were quite a few of them. There were some that I had to leave off. It was very tough. But for my next choice, I went with David Lee Roth. David Lee Roth, obviously, he's got that showmanship. He's almost like he's almost like a rock and roll clown at times, but he's super athletic. You know, he trained at the Jett Center with Benny the Jet Yakitas, which was a top Muay Thai gym in the 70s, and that's how he got all those great kicks and jumping kicks and stuff that he used in a lot of the videos that he used in Jump and a number of other videos. And he's great at engaging the crowd also. If you see any of the live videos where there's a big stadium crowd, he could just, get everybody into it. Who'd like a drink? Ha, ha, ha. He just had that great sense of humor, rock and roll attitude. And he had that quick wit, that rap that he would do sometimes. And it could get a little bizarre at times also, which kind of feeds into that persona. So, yeah, David Lee Roth of Van Halen. He's my next.
Yeah, that's a great one. Okay, for my next one, he was hard to leave off of the greatest rock and roll singers of all time, but you can't leave him off of this list. Got to go with Freddie Mercury of Queen, consummate frontman, in command of the crowd, great singer, great chops, maybe a little limited on the range, but he's got Roger Taylor to cover him there on some of the high vocals live. Just a commanding front man. Of course, you can look at the Live Aid gig in '86, and he's just got the whole audience in the palm of his hand. So that's my number 3 pick. I got to go with Freddie Mercury, the great Freddie Mercury from Queen.
Well, looks like we're doubling up on some of these because I had to go with Freddie Mercury also. Ding, 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 ding. I also went with Freddie Mercury. Just as you said, Jett, great voice and great piano player, great composer, but also great stage moves and also, really great at engaging the crowd. And he always had that theatrical sense of, being able to occupy the stage, be right in the spotlight, and just very dramatic and a huge body of work. Even though, he passed away in the 80s, he still had quite a body of work that, a lot of those albums, cut for cut or pretty close to it. They were all great, and a lot of it's because of him. Brian May and the other guys also obviously contributed, very talented singers and musicians in their own right, but Freddie was the absolute leader of that band, and yeah, absolutely great front man, Freddie Mercury. Got to go with you on that.
He definitely had a lot of signature stage moves as well. Also using the half of the mic stand, that was one of his signature things. So he had a lot of signature things going. So for my next one, I'm going to go with a guy that's a little off the radar, especially some of you younger listeners wouldn't know about him, but he is absolutely one of the greatest frontmen of all time. I've seen him a few times perform, and that would be Michael Lee Smith from Starz, the band Starz, Starz.
Wow, great choice. Yeah, absolutely. And we saw him at the Starwood, and I have to agree with you on him as well. Boy, that hard to leave him off the list.
Yeah, that Starwood gig was crushing. I also saw him at the Santa Monica Civic on the Violation tour, just all over the stage, prowling it, hitting all the notes. Very, very dynamic frontman, great singer, great songwriter. Yeah, I'm a big fan of Michael Lee Smith, one of the greatest rock and roll frontmen of all time.
I'd have to agree with you on that. It was very hard leaving him off the list. I had him right here in my second tier, and I think the only reason that I left him off was because I think they only had 4 albums, and they didn't play a lot on the West Coast, so I only got to see him once or twice, I think, and so it's very hard to leave him off the list for all the reasons that you just stated. But my next choice was Robert Plant of Led Zeppelin. Not my favorite singer of all time. He's great, obviously, and an incredible icon. But he had that, he could command the stage as well, and he was a little more reserved than some of these, than, say, David Lee Roth or Mick Jagger. But he had that smooth sex appeal. He had those rock star poses. He was like the hippie god of the late 60s and into the 70s. And he also, just he could get the crowd in the palm of his hand also. A little different. He wasn't like super athletic, jumping around and, as say, Freddie and David Lee Roth or Mick Jagger. But he had his own way of being a front man. So I couldn't leave Robert Plant off the list, so I had to choose him. Robert Plant of Led Zeppelin.
Oh, that's a great one. You had a hard time leaving him off this list as well. Very iconic front man. Probably one of the most iconic frontmen of all time. And for my last one, this was really hard to leave some other guys off that are deserving, but yeah, I got to go with Diamond Dave from Van Halen. This is Diamond Dave talking to you from Van Halen. Yep. Yeah, he's really over the top. Maybe once they made it really big, maybe a little inebriated on some of the gigs, so he wouldn't come in on the songs right, like on Unchained, for example, in Oakland. But hey, what the heck? It's rock and roll. He's got the swagger. He's got the personality. He's got the moves that the professor mentioned before. Yeah, very flexible. Can do the big split kicks, jumping around all over the place. Always engaging the audience. And I love his work with Van Halen. I would say probably Fair Warning is probably my favorite album by them. Yeah, David Lee Roth. He totally rocks. Consummate rock and roll frontman. When you think of frontmen, you can't not think of Diamond Dave from Van Halen.
Yeah, I had to agree with that as well. Yeah, we ended up picking a few of the same. My last one, boy, it was really tough because I had 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 other frontmen kind of in the wings, and I'm kind of cheating here a little bit. So I'm going to actually go with Paul Stanley and Gene Simmons, because they kind of share the stage as the frontman of Kiss, and they just had that. They would also great at engaging the crowd. They had complementary, contrasting sound and moves and stage moves. Gene just has that, great theatrical stuff with spitting the fire and the blood and, those kind of creeping around the stage. If you look at him, especially like an early Kiss, those faces he's making and, at his bandmates, at the crowd, at the sky, he was just over the top. And Paul Stanley kind of doing the, more of the cliche or let's say trademark lead singer, frontman, rock and roller. So the two of them together almost are like one persona in some ways. They just had a great sense of showmanship and moved around a lot and used a lot of early mechanical devices, hydraulic lifts and things like that, and light shows and fire and flash pots and things like that. So I had to kind of go with Paul Stanley and Gene Simmons as my last choice. And I had Michael Lee Smith, I had Dennis DeYoung, Ozzy, Ronnie Van Zant, Steve Walsh, Steven Tyler, Roger Daltrey, Geddy Lee, Alice Cooper. All those guys were so hard to leave off this list. But I had to kind of go with those that either had like a long tenure or still going, or the ones that were theatrical and dramatic and really engaging with the crowd. So this was tough to pick these 5. But these are my last choice. Definitely Paul Stanley and Gene Simmons of Kiss.
Oh, yeah, those are great choices. Yeah, Paul Stanley in particular, phenomenal singer back in the day. Saw him at the Forum on the Alive 2 tour. Yeah, they crushed it. Paul Stanley's phenomenal singer, phenomenal stage presence, great front man, really engages the crowd, has that kind of preacher thing going. Let me tell you, I told you all before. All that kind of stuff. And, Jeannie. Yeah, those two were very hard for me to leave off the list as well.
Yeah, this was tough. It was tough trying to just pick 5 out, especially leaving out Ozzy, leaving out Ronnie Van Zant, leaving out Roger Daltrey also. Alice Cooper, he was also very theatrical. He also had a long tenure.
Yeah, Alice was hard to leave. Yeah, Alice was hard to leave off the list myself.
Yeah, Geddy Lee's another one, another long tenure, Ooh, yeah! He had that super high tenor, almost a scream, and but still vocalizing it and just keeping the crowd into it. I saw Rush a couple times, and man, they were just great. Just a great show, very theatrical also. So this was a tough list. This was tougher than I thought going in, but
all right, Professor. Well, those are great choices, and I guess it's about time for us to sign off. I want to remind you guys, all you rock and rollers out there, to please like and subscribe to the channel. Leave us some comments, and we're looking forward.
Do you guys have your 5 frontmen that you think we left somebody off that we didn't mention, or you think we should have substituted one for another? Let us know. Drop down in the comment section below and let us know.
All right. Well said, Professor. Yeah, we're going to be exploring some of these other musicians and singers that we have touched upon in future episodes of the ElectroJet Rock Show. And my name is Jett Electro, signing off with the Professor from Los Angeles. And all I got to say is rock and roll!
Rock and roll!